Hey, welcome to my week one recap of the other games in the VGCeriii Draft League. Uh, Today I'm going to be watching the other three games and just kind of seeing what the other players were going for, um, giving my opinion on how the games went, kind of gaining a little insight on their game plans as well, and trying to analyze their teams for for future weeks just a little bit. But also just to watch the games and be entertained. We've got two replays on Showdown this week and two replays on Champions. Those are both recorded on YouTube videos that I will be watching. But we're going to start on Showdown for Pendragon United versus the Southtown Santos. Let me switch POVs because I have I have both replays from Ceriii's point of view. Ceriii is the pilot of the Pendragon United, and Burner is the pilot of the Southtown Santos. So looking at their teams, the first thing that I notice really is that there. The thing that stands out the most to me, I think, is this Mega Chimecho here. Um, Let me pull up the draft page just so that I can keep up on what they have. So yes, we see the Mega Chimecho, which I think is interesting because King Gambit really threatens Chimecho here. So I would expect that King Gambit is going to be a major force in this battle. It's good into Chimecho, it's good into Cofagrigus, it's good into Gyarados. Honestly, I expect that Ceriii's going to get a lot of mileage out of Sylveon. I would not be shocked to see King Gambit in every game from Burner as well. Emolga is an interesting choice. I don't entirely understand what it's going for here. It doesn't have access to Tailwind in this game. The best thing that it can probably be doing is speed swapping onto King Gambit, potentially. It could also be doing support with Nuzzle. It could be just a pivot mon. I'm not entirely sure what it's doing. I don't really know what it's capable of in Champions meta. We have Incineroar, who seems like it's really threatened by this Rampardos on Ceriii's side. Um, and I think Gyarados also looks very strong from Pendragon United. It is not Mega Gyarados on this roster. It is just regular Gyarados. But I expect that I'm going to see at least some pressure from it into the Incineroar. If it has a dark move, it could be a really threatening option into Frostlass as well. I don't know if Frostlass gets Frost Breath, or not Frost Breath, Freeze Dry in this game. But if Frostlass does get Freeze Dry in this game, it could be very threatening here as well. We might as well just get into it, because I have no idea what the plan is. Both of these teams are very interesting, and I just have no idea how to even approach it. I see the players are discussing how it is closed team sheet. Yes, we are playing closed team sheet in this draft. And we see Watchog Frostlass from the Southtown Santos, and we see Chimecho and Cofagrigus from Pendragon United. We've already seen the Frostlass Mega Evolve. I imagine we're going to see Chimecho immediately Mega Evolve as well. There's not really much reason not to in the face of the Blizzard here. Blizzard is really scary. I think also a Shadow Ball is really scary as an option. And we could see a Crunch from this Watchog. I'm not really sure what Watchog is going to go for, but I think having like a Shadow Ball and a Crunch into Cofagrigus isn't the worst option. But Cofagrigus is probably going to try to set up a Trick Room or try to burn the Watchog, or just click damage into Frostlass here, and I think it could probably take a double up depending on how it's trained. So let's see. We see the Snow Warning go off. Chimecho Mega Evolves, and we see Aurora Veil and Zen Headbutt into Chimecho. I'm not entirely sure what the Zen Headbutt was attempting to go for. I don't think it really covers any options that Pendragon United might have had in the back. It might have been attempting to target the Ariados or go for a flinch, but it really doesn't make a ton of sense to me to click that into the Chimecho slot. I don't know if they just didn't have a better option or if there's something else going on here. We see Iron Defense from Cofagrigus and Trick Room from Chimecho into the body press from Cofagrigus to do almost all of Watchog's HP. Depending on what the Watchog accomplishes this turn, that could be really big, or Watchog is just going to go down this turn and we're not going to see a whole lot from it. Frostlass also seems like it'd be really threatened in this situation. Chimecho's in a really great spot right now. It's not super threatened by either of the opposing Pokemon. We see Flash Cannon do a ton to Frostlass. And Giga Impact. Giga Impact and Thunderbolt. So I have to imagine that there's no crunch on this Watchog, because no Dark move would be the only thing I can think of that would cause it to want to click Giga Impact into Chimecho here. And the Thunderbolt into Cofagrigus tells me that there might not be a Shadow Ball on Frostlass, or they were calling a Gyarados switch in. But I don't think there was any real reason for Pendragon United to pivot in this situation. They're just in a very strong position here. Obviously, they have super effective damage to click into both of these slots, and now they're threatening a lot of damage pressure into the Frostlass. Because Watchog is forced to recharge, it can't do anything this turn. So whatever is in that Frostlass slot is going to be taking a ton of damage. Frostlass either has to protect here and reveal that it only has Thunderbolt and Blizzard, or Thunderbolt and Shadow Ball, I imagine. Or it's just going to die, or they're going to pivot out, and something is going to be taking the full force of a Flash Cannon and a Body Press. We see another Iron Defense from Cofagrigus, followed by the Flash Cannon from Chimecho. Frostlass is removed from the game, which I think is a really big deal. That means that Gyarados is a lot stronger now, because there's just nothing that really threatens it. I think Emolga is obviously like a possible threat, but there are still 3 turns of Trick Room left. I can't imagine that there's anything that they'll be able to do into the Gyarados. We see Primarina come out. Primarina, we're about to see a Body Press into the Watchog to take out the Watchog, which I think makes sense. Primarina is really just space for this Chimecho to potentially set up Cosmic Powers or set up a Calm Mind. But it's possible that Seri also wants to just make use of this Trick Room. Now, I don't know if Aurora Veil and Light Screen stack. I'm pretty certain that they do not. So I don't totally get this play. I think it's kind of cool that they have multiple screens, guys, but I feel like you really want to be putting on a lot of pressure here and trying to get through this Cofagrigus and Chimecho before they really just sweep through your whole team. Now Incineroar comes in. Incineroar it just takes a Body Press and dies immediately. We see Hyper Voice come out. If they had clicked Hyper Voice the last turn, I think there would have been a serious threat this turn from Primarina to take multiple KOs, potentially. I mean, it doesn't do quite enough for that. But if there was like a Fake Out plus Hyper Voice into Chimecho, there would still be maybe a chance. It's not a great spot either way, but I think it would be better than the spot that they're in now. We see the Flash Cannon, and the Aurora Veil wears off, Trick Room wears off. Now Sylveon comes in. Hyper Voice, Cofagrigus does take another one and misses a Will-O-Wisp. This tells me that Cofagrigus probably doesn't have anything amazing to click, but I would have probably wanted to see a Body Press from Cofagrigus into Primarina here. Primarina is not very physically bulky, and Cofagrigus being at +4 physical defense right now would make that Body Press do a lot. I imagine it would do at least 50% to the Primarina, if not more. It's not going to matter a whole lot because Sylveon is in a great position here. We've got a ton of damage pressure from Pendragon United's side. We see the crit Hyper Voice to take an extra KO, and Sylveon wins the game. So Pendragon United takes game 1. It looked like it was fairly dominant. A lot of momentum was lost into the Primarina at the end. And Primarina didn't really reveal a whole lot of its set, so we don't really know what a lot of the Southtown Santos team is doing. That we only saw 6 moves in the whole game. We are also missing a 4th move on Cofagrigus. I don't think they had to necessarily reveal the Will-O-Wisp. I think clicking Body Press there would have been fantastic and maybe have been better for their KO count. Cofagrigus really did a lot of work in this first game. I want to see Cofagrigus continue to put up a lot of pressure in game 2. So we're going to go into game 2 immediately here. And we see Ariados and Chimecho versus Primarina and Frostlass. So I immediately want to see Frostlass doing a lot of damage here. As much damage as possible. Ariados is threatening maybe a first impression. I don't think either of these really wants to take that much damage from a first impression. But also is threatening a poison move into Primarina. So I'd like to see damage come out from both of these Pokemon and maybe focus down Ariados this turn. Let's see what they go for. We do get both Pokemon Mega Evolving. Ariados protects, and we get Aurora Veil and a Hyper Voice while Trick Room gets set up. So now Ariados is in a fantastic position. This Ariados is threatening big poison damage into this Primarina. Even through the screens is probably going to be really close to KOing it. Even though Ariados doesn't hit that hard, it's just not that tanky on the physical side, and I think it's in a really strong position here. I would almost want to see a double up into the Primarina, I think, to remove the Primarina in general, because it was such a pain in the butt in the first game. But we'd also like to see maybe some damage into Frostlass, because we don't really know what Frostlass is going for. We only saw Thunderbolt and Aurora Veil from it in the first game, and I don't really know what the rest of its kit is going to be. We see Acid Spray into Primarina, which is interesting, and we see Hyper Voice into the Ariados, followed by a Flash Cannon into Primarina. And we see Bright Powder Ariados. Ariados dodges a Thunderbolt. That is some crazy tech. I think it's positive RNG, but I'm not certain that it matters much at all. The Acid Spray to make Primarina weaker to Flash Cannon is crazy. I think it looks like we're fishing for some KOs with this Chimecho here. It would be interesting to see if we get something like another Acid Spray plus a Flash Cannon into the Frostlass slot this turn. That might get a KO. But I would also like to see Frostlass potentially switch out this turn, just to get something with a little bit more damage pressure and give Primarina the chance to maybe do something. But Primarina is so pressured here. We see a Protect from the Primarina and a Rage Powder from Ariados. And we see Thunderbolt again. Do they just not have Blizzard? I feel like this is a turn where you really want to be clicking Blizzard all day long. Frostlass without Blizzard is a really interesting choice. I'm not entirely sure I get it, but it is really interesting. What is this chat about? They're saying that's diabolical. This Ariados is really doing numbers right now, though. And we do see the Frostlass just get KO'd before it could do anything else. We only ever saw Thunderbolt and Aurora Veil from it. I really wish we would have seen the Blizzard, because Blizzard would have absolutely KO'd Ariados here. And it would have been threatening a lot of pressure into this Chimecho. And Primarina did go for the double protect. I didn't even notice that it failed the double protect. But now we see Kingambit come out. And we haven't seen Kingambit do much, but it's really not in a great position to get anything done here. We do see Pendragon United stall out the last turn of Aurora Veil and the last turn of Trick Room and the last turn of Snow. So all the field effects end here. We see Flash Cannon take out the Primarina and Kauta Cleave into the Ariados. This one is looking pretty over. We do have Incineroar, but Incineroar is very threatened by this body press from the Cofagrigus. There's still a chance. I have no clue if this is winnable for the Southtown Santos. Rampardos being the last really does not bode well, though. We see Protect from Incineroar, which is huge. We see the Rock Slide. Rock Slide misses into Kingambit. And we see the Iron Defense. Getting the +1 or +2 from Iron Defense is a big deal. Darkest Lariat does ignore it. We see Hammer Arm. Hammer Arm on Rampardos is crazy work. And we see the Trick Room go off. Pendragon United is in a really strong position here. It's really tricky because Kingambit can KO the Cofagrigus here, but Cofagrigus has a lot of pressure from body press into both slots. We see Sucker Punch, and we see the body press into Kingambit. And I think that's going to seal this game up. Because Incineroar probably cannot deal with both of these Pokemon. We're going to see a body press to do 100% to it. And that's our game. Pendragon United wins 2-0 over the Southtown Santos in a much closer set than I thought it was going to be from the intro to both of these games, where it felt like Pendragon United was very dominant. I think it's really exciting that we get to see Cofagrigus do so much work. This Pokemon was very strong this week, and this set is honestly very exciting. I like that Pendragon United hid the Trick Room on Cofagrigus until the third game. Or not the third game, the second game. I like that they hid it until the second game, just because that means that the Southtown Santos did not have any real knowledge that this was even a line that was possible. The Hammer Arm on Rampardos was fantastic as well. We are going to move on to the next game. So for this game, we are going to be watching the Granite Cave Girly Pops versus the Pittsburgh Piplups. There is audio for this one. I'm going to turn it down a little bit so that I can be heard. And we will skip forward just a little bit to see team selection. I don't want to see the moves that they go for, because if I see their pace, I don't think it will be as interesting to react to. But we see on the left here, we do have the Granite Cave Girly Pops, and on the right, we have the Pittsburgh Piplups. We have Vanillix, Scovillain, Lycanroc, Sneasler, Corviknight, and Milotic from the Granite Cave Girly Pops. And we have the Hisuian Zoroark, Mudsdale, Kangaskhan. This is Mega Kangaskhan. Rotom Fan, Farigiraf, and Klefki. Testing my memory late at night of these Pokemon names that I really should not have problems remembering. But I think this is going to be a really interesting game, because Scovillain looks really strong into the Pittsburgh Piplups team here. Mega Kangaskhan and Mudsdale are the biggest damage dealers on this team specifically out of this 6. And both of them are very threatened by Mega Scovillain. And we have the Zoroark up here. Zoroark is really good at handling Sneasler, but I think there are a lot of options on the Granite Cave Girly Pops team that handle it really well. So I'm not entirely sure it's going to have a huge impact on this game, but it could catch us off guard. Rotom Fan probably always wants to come into this Corviknight, and the Milotic. I think it's a really strong pick into both of these. It kind of depends on what its set is, but I think it is a very reasonable option, and it also threatens air slash into the Scovillain, which is pretty threatening, and I think it would do a lot to open up some doors for the Mudsdale and the Kangaskhan in the late game. Corviknight does wall out both Mudsdale and Kangaskhan pretty well, so we would want to see some way of dealing it. Notably, the Pittsburgh Piplups did not bring either their Typhlosion or their Mega Aerodactyl this game. We also don't see Vivian, who could have been very interesting. But the Hisuian Typhlosion would have probably been really strong into this team looking at it. Because if we had, say, a Choice Scarf Hisuian Typhlosion, we would see damage that was really strong into Vanillix and Scovillain. And honestly, the Sneasler and Corviknight as well. And I think it would have been really threatening. So I'm a little shocked that we don't see it. We are going to see the 4 that the Girly Pops select going into this game. Choice Scarf Vanillix does seem like it's a really strong option. And I think Mega Scovillain is probably going to be a great option here as well. So I'm curious what their lead is going to be, but I would not be shocked to see like Vanillix and Scovillain as a lead, followed by Sneasler in the back and Corviknight. We see Vanillix and Sneasler potentially? No, we see Vanillix and Scovillain locked in. We might not see Sneasler this game. Lycanroc does seem like an option that could be really strong. I'm a little surprised to not see Corviknight. And we're not going to see the Lycanroc either. We are seeing Sneasler immediately. Now on the Pittsburgh Piplup side, what are the leads? We see Mudsdale and Farigiraf into the Vanillix and Scovillain. This lead seems immediately like it's very favorable to the Girly Pops. I feel like they just want to click Blizzard here all day long. Because Blizzard and clicking your Mega on Scovillain does not seem remotely bad here. Threatening an overheat into the Farigiraf as well as the Blizzard seems honestly incredible. So I would not be surprised to see that move. We're seeing a Leech Seed, which is interesting. The Leech Seed hover is very interesting. And we're not going to Mega Evolve right away. I imagine that means that we're moody and we're waiting to try to fish for a boost. We see Zoroark come out. Zoroark into the Mudsdale, or as the Mudsdale, is interesting, but I think it might just not be enough. Vanillix being scarfed here really made that turn 1 very difficult. It all depends on what this Moody boost is, though. We see a speed boost, which is honestly terrible. This is possibly the worst possible outcome that they could have had for the Moody in this situation. Because we have a -1 special defense in front of 2 special attackers and a +2 speed in Trick Room. So it's possible we're going to see a double switch here. But no, we're seeing a Blizzard. A Blizzard, and we're gonna Mega Evolve. We're just gonna deal with being a -1. This is potentially a very aggressive play from the Girly Pops. We see the Psychic Noise into Vanillix. That does not do enough damage. Now, we see the Zoroark go before the Scovillain, which is crazy. Normally you would expect that Scovillain would be the thing moving first in this. But because of that +2 from Moody, that +2 speed changed the turn order and made it so that Zoroark could take the Vanillix off of the field and put the Pittsburgh Piplups in a really fantastic position. This Scovillain has taken a lot of damage, and we have 3 turns of Trick Room left. Knowing that Mudsdale is in the back, I do wonder if we're going to see anything that can actually get through this Milotic. Milotic seems like it's in a really great spot, even if Scovillain has not really done a whole lot in this game. We have 3 turns of Trick Room left and 3 turns of Snow left. And we're going to see a Scald and a Rage Powder. It seems like the Girly Pops just want to sacrifice their Scovillain. And we see Farigiraf go for the Ally Switch, which is obviously a really, really cool play. But this means that Mudsdale is going to be eating a burn. And I think there's a chance that this just puts the Pittsburgh Piplups too far behind to actually make it through this game. And Farigiraf dies to the Leech Seed. We don't see an animation for Leech Seed because it switched sides, which is kind of funny. I've never seen Ally Switch with a Leech Seed attached turn into that before. And we see Kangaskhan come out. Now this is a tricky situation, because neither of these Pokemon wants to deal with this Mega Scovillain. There is going to be something that gets burned this turn, and it's not going to enjoy it. We're going to see the Leech Seed into the Mudsdale. I think despite getting the worst possible outcome from a Moody boost, this Scovillain might actually be running this game right now. It looks very strong into the Piplup's position. And neither of these Pokemon really has much way of dealing with this Milotic. I suppose letting Mudsdale get burned and using Mega Kangaskhan to finish off the game is a good option to prevent both Pokemon from getting burned. I believe there's 1 turn left of Trick Room at this point. But that means that Scovillain is very free to just protect here. And Scovillain is going to be threatening to win the game here on the spot, honestly. Because if Trick Room goes away, then it's pretty free to get the burn on the Kangaskhan as well, right? We're not going to see the Protect to stall the last turn of Trick Room. I think I'd really want to see stalling the last turn of Trick Room here, because exactly that could happen. Now we have an unburned Mega Kangaskhan on the field. And we're focusing the burned Mudsdale, which is currently not that much of a threat. We see Thunder Punch. That does a lot. Even with the nerfed Parental Bond, that is a very significant amount of damage. And now we see Trick Room disappear. And we'll probably see the Vanillix come in this turn, because Vanillix no longer... Oh, right, Vanillix died already. I really would have wanted to see the Protect from Scovillain that last turn of Trick Room, because having Scovillain alive here would make it a lot easier to deal with this Kangaskhan. As much as close combat is going to do to this Kangaskhan regardless. We really should see the close combat into Kangaskhan, but if Kangaskhan were to protect, then it's possible that Mudsdale could do a lot of damage, even if it is burn. It does seem pretty desperate for the Piplups this turn. Sneasler is in a great position here, and we don't see it protect, so that is going to be Kangaskhan down to 2%. It takes close combat from Sneasler. That is incredible. Kangaskhan is insanely bulky. And we see the White Herb go. We see Double Edge. We're not going to see 2 hits of Double Edge, but 1 hit is enough. We're going to see the Scald to finish off this Mudsdale. I think it would have been interesting to see the Double Edge into potentially a Milotic instead. Because if we saw the Double Edge into Milotic, I think it KOs the Milotic, and then Mudsdale has a reasonable chance into the Sneasler. Even if it is... even if it is burned. Being at +3 defense seems very strong. But we see the Girly Pops take game 1, and we go into game 2. So the question is, are we going to see an adjustment from the Girly Pops this game? I don't think we need to. I think Scovillain is still going to be an absolute house in this matchup. It looked very strong in the first game. Even though it had the worst Moody boost that it possibly could have had, it still did a lot to impact the game. And it could have done even more to impact the game if they had gone for the Protect to stall Trick Room. So maybe they will attempt to just get through the Trick Room again with Scovillain. Because Scovillain can seriously run this game. And Vanillix did so much work in the opening turns of the game. Just getting that Blizzard off was a huge deal. Will we see the Corviknight, or will we see the Sneasler? We're seeing the same game plan from the Girly Pops this time. Are we going to see the same game plan from the Piplups as well? I think the game plan from the Piplups did look like it was potentially very strong if they could deal with the Mega Scovillain. We see Klefki and Mega Kangaskhan immediately. And there's immediate overheat pressure from the Scovillain into the Klefki slot. And we're going to see the immediate Mega Evolution. We're not risking the Moody boost going negatively for us here. And we're seeing Vanillix immediately pivot out. We don't want to be taking a Flash Cannon. And Sneasler comes in. We see the Mega Scovillain. And we see the fake out into the Sneasler slot. We see Light Screen come out from Klefki. It would have been really crazy if we saw a Double Edge into the Sneasler. Seeing a Leech Seed into Klefki instead of the Overheat is interesting. I think I would have wanted to see an Overheat to try to get rid of the Klefki, because the Klefki is a huge threat to making, or a huge threat to this team making progress. We are going to see a close combat into Kangaskhan. We did see that it lived last time, and we're seeing a Rage Powder from Scovillain. It's possible that we're going to see a Zoroark switch in, which would be interesting. Just to take this attack from Sneasler. We see Farigiraf come in. We see Misty Terrain go off. Misty Terrain is a very exciting move to see. I would have liked to see maybe a double edge. I don't know if it was a roll to KO. And it is Farigiraf. That is not Hisuian Zoroark. But seeing this Misty Terrain is really big, because that almost completely neutralizes the Scovillain as a threat. Obviously, the Overheat threat is still there. The Scovillain does have reasonable offenses, and it can click a lot of damage. So I would not be shocked to see the Overheat potentially even KO this Farigiraf from this range, because that is not a weak move. We see the CC also locked in into the Farigiraf. This is going to guarantee that that Farigiraf goes down as long as the Overheat hits, which is a big deal because that means that Sneasler is in a much safer spot. But with this Misty Terrain being up and Trick Room going off, we see Kangaskhan end up in a really great position now. There's a potential double edge coming into this Sneasler that's going to do a ridiculous amount of damage to anything that's in that slot. The Piplups don't know that it's no Protect Sneasler, but we see Rotom come out. I think I would have really wanted to see Kangaskhan in this position, because with the Misty Terrain up, the Scovillain isn't a major threat, and the Fake Out does so much damage into the Sneasler. Klefki does leave the field for Kangaskhan. We see Vanillix come back. We could be seeing Hammer Arm from Kangaskhan this turn to go to -2 speed and be way fast under Trick Room. We see Nasty Plot from Rotom. That Nasty Plot makes Rotom look very scary. I imagine that Rotom does underspeed the Kangaskhan, which means that the Air Slash is very threatening. I would not be surprised if the Girly Pops wanted to go for Protect here, just to keep Scovillain safe, and just click a Blizzard. Because Kangaskhan isn't a super big threat to Vanillix immediately here. I think Vanillix in snow can probably take anything that Kangaskhan does, unless it happens to have Hammer Arm. But even a Hammer Arm probably isn't doing a ridiculous amount. We see Thunderbolt come out into Vanillix though, and it hangs on with 1 HP. And we see the double edge into the Scovillain. And Rotom takes that Blizzard like a champ. That is incredible amounts of bulk on the Rotom. Obviously, it was assisted a little bit by the light screen, but that's still a big deal. I definitely would expect to see the switch from the Girly Pops here, because they really want to get a bigger advantage from the Scovillain here, and getting through this Misty Terrain would be a huge deal for them. And we do see the double edge into the Vanillix. There is 1 turn left of Trick Room. And this Rotom is still extremely threatening. This position does feel mostly even. But this Scovillain is presenting a huge threat. I think I'd like to see Scald into the Rotom here, potentially just to get rid of the Rotom Because there's a good chance that Kangaskhan is going to switch out here, and Rotom's just going to click a big air slash into the Scovillain. We are seeing the overheat lock in. It's possible that the Scovillain will always be slower. It is slower. So we do see the overheat take out the Rotom, which means that the Scovillain is probably able to lock up this game. It might take a little bit of effort to get through these Pokemon, but I think overheat is threatening a KO onto Klefki, who is burned now. And I'm uncertain if Kangaskhan is going to be able to get through all of these Pokemon on its own. That's a lot of HP to get through with just double edge as your offense. I would definitely expect to see a Misty Terrain from Klefki this turn. Misty Terrain and a double edge into Scovillain definitely seems like it could be an option that's really strong. But I think double attacking into Klefki is a play that they can make. We still haven't seen a whole lot out of Kangaskhan. We see the fake out into the Milotic. This makes the double up very strong. And we see Aqua Berry on Klefki. Does that mean that it survives? It does not survive. I would have really liked to see the Misty Terrain that turn. But I guess they mustn't have known. The Piplup mustn't have known that it was going to KO through Aqua Berry at -2. The Scovillain is just proving that it is a very strong Pokemon, even without that much special attack investment. I don't think there's any way that this Kangaskhan is going to get through this board. Unfortunately, there's no Misty Terrain to stop it from getting burned, so it is going to get burned from this Scovillain, and it's not going to do that much damage. Mega Scovillain looked absolutely incredible in this matchup. And they go for the Thunder Punch. And that pretty much completely seals this game. Kangaskhan is burned now. Kangaskhan cannot do enough damage to get through all three of the Pokemon that are still alive on the Girly Pop side of the field. Even if it is just chip damage from Milotic and from Scovillain each turn here, Kangaskhan has finite HP, and now Scovillain is free to set up a Leech Seed onto this burned opponent and just seal the game. It might take a few more turns, but this game is pretty much completely done at this point. You would need a super crit that gets through burns to get through this. And we do see the Rage Powder instead of the Leech Seed. I think I would have wanted to see a Leech Seed here. It does feel maybe a little bit win more to click the Leech Seed, but I think the Leech Seed is really important for ensuring that you do lock up this game in a timely manner. And it would also prevent additional KOs from happening. Not that I think that this Kangaskhan is really going to be taking any KOs. It has so little HP left, it is just going to go down to a Scald from Milotic. I'm curious what the Girly Pops are thinking about here. Because this game is all but completely locked up at this point. I think I would like to see an overheat. Just to get some extra damage out of the Scovillain. But instead we're going to see Kangaskhan do the work itself and take itself out. So Kangaskhan takes itself out in this game to end it all. And that means that the Girly Pops take it over the Piplups in week 1. So let's move on to the third and final game. This game is going to be between the Ontario Ogres and the East Coast Esper. The pilot Ghost here is the East Coast Esper, and Shaboogles is the Ontario Ogres. Now I'm going to skip ahead to team preview here.
It doesn't make sense if I don't.
And we're going to just mute the commentary here because I want to give my own commentary. There is no music, so I will probably not be playing my own music. We will just have to watch this game without audio and get my full reaction that way. So we see... We'll start with the Ogres side, I think. We see Mega Gardevoir, we see Tsareena, we see Orthworm, we see Reuniclus, Crocodile, and Mega Heracross. There are a few choices here that I think seemed a little bit questionable when the Ogres were drafting their team. I'm really curious to see what the Orthworm and and the Reuniclus are going to do. I think both of these are interesting picks. I'm also really curious about this Focus Sash Tsareena. I'm not entirely sure what their plan for it is, but it seems really good into the Sableye over here. And we do see the Mega Heracross, who is very threatened by a lot of this team. It doesn't really want to sit in front of Runerigus or Espathra or Arcanine or Floette. All of these Pokemon are a huge threat to that Heracross, so we might not be seeing a whole lot of Heracross in this game. I think Crocodile does look really strong here. It threatens 3 Pokemon for super effective damage for sure. Depending on if it is carrying Rock Slide, it could also threaten damage into the Araquanid, but I think Araquanid is also going to threaten damage back into it with Water Bubble Liquidation, and that is a very strong move that nothing on this team really wants to take. Obviously, Tsareena can kind of take it, but I imagine that it's not going to take it that well since it is Focus Sash. That means it's probably not going to be that bulky. Going on to the Esper's side here, we do have this Runerigus. I imagine that this is going to have Trick Room and maybe Ally Switch. I think Ally Switch could be interesting. It is an option that it has, I believe. And I think it also provides some threat of strong ghost damage somehow into both Gardevoir and Reuniclus, which could be interesting. I forgot to say, we do see the Mental Herb on Reuniclus. We could see a Taunt that maybe procs that, or maybe an Encore from Sableye that into a Trick Room that just gets reversed, and they end up in a really great spot. But Sableye looks really strong here as well, as long as the priority blocking is taken care of and the Crocodile is removed. I think we're going to see a lot of work from Crocodile this game. We do see Espathra. Espathra could be a baton pass set like we see on Ladder recently, but it could also just be a big damage guy. I think it seems like it's very threatening, and the coverage options that it has are very strong. It is resisted, obviously, by Gardevoir and Reuniclus and Orthworm, pretty much. Shaboogles' nicknames always get me. Hiding Lion and Female Worm. And Jonathan the Heracross. Floette looks incredible. I think Floette is going to do big numbers this game. I think Gardevoir is obviously stronger because of the Fairy Aura, but Floette really loves to see this team. It does good damage into everything here. So let's see what they lock in. We see Reuniclus and Gardevoir as the lead. I think I would have wanted to see Crocodile immediately. because having Crocodile immediately puts a lot of pressure to get the Araquanid on the field, and I think Araquanid is a very big threat. But I also just don't really see how... I don't see how the Ogres are going to really deal with the Araquanid here. The Crocodile is good, but it is threatened in return by the Araquanid. And the only options to really hit it in return are neutral hits from Gardevoir and Reuniclus. I'm not sure what their moveset is for the Orthworm, but it could be a huge problem for the Esper, depending on how things go. I imagine that Floette is probably going to run away with this game pretty quickly, though. And we do see the Floette immediately. I think I'd like to see a Mega Evolution and potentially a Calm Mind or a Dazzling Gleam here. I'm not entirely sure what set they're going for, but I would not be shocked to just see Dazzling Gleam, see an offensive Floette team on this team, because there isn't really a whole lot to support getting Calm Minds up. And Arcanine in this position does not seem like it's getting a whole lot done. And we see the Gardevoir Mega Evolve already. And with the Gardevoir Mega Evolving, we see Floette Mega Evolve. Since it is drafted as Mega Floette, it can't be Scarf Floette, which would be a very interesting option to have. But it's pretty clearly weaker if it was that. And we see the Calm Mind. So this is a Calm Mind set, despite the lack of options to support it getting set up and keep it alive. And we see Snarl come out. Now, I really like this Snarl from the Esper, because this means that Arcanine is not very threatened by either of these Pokemon, and both of them have their damage output very reduced. We see the double Trick Room. I don't really understand what just happened. Why are we clicking Trick Room twice in the same turn? Did we expect to see a taunt? Oh, no. That wasn't Trick Room. That was Wonder Room. We have Trick Room and Wonder Room up? Oh, what is this going to be? This is so interesting. I don't know what to even think. I haven't seen Wonder Room in this game at all yet. For those who are wondering, Wonder Room does flip the special defense and physical defense stats of all of the Pokemon on the field, which I think is interesting. I'm not entirely sure how it necessarily helps the Ogres, but it is really a crazy move to go for here. I thought that they went for Trick Room with both because the animations are so similar. I didn't even notice. But that's such a crazy play to go for. Both of their Pokemon are still at -1, which seems less than helpful. And we see Helping Hand into the Gardevoir into another Snarl. So even with the Helping Hand, this is probably not going to be that crazy of damage into either of these Pokemon. We see Draining Kiss from Floette. It just takes out the Gardevoir immediately. Oh my gosh. Both of those Snarls didn't matter at all, and the Helping Hand didn't do anything. I think this Floette is in a very strong position now. Obviously, this Orthworm is in a better position because of the Wonder Room. Its very high 145 base physical defense stat is better into this Floette now because it is its special defense stat. But we see... I didn't even notice how passive this Reuniclus is. It has no offensive moves. The only options that it has are Pain Split to do damage and Helping Hand to make its friend do damage. But that means that the Esper can honestly just completely ignore this this Reuniclus as much as they want to, and just we're seeing Shedtail. That was that was the least impactful pain split that I think I've ever seen. It did almost nothing, and we see Shedtail from the Orthworm. I don't know if I really like this Shedtail, because Shedtail into Crocodile, we're going to see this take a lot of damage from Floette, and we could have just seen Crocodile come in before if they wanted to have it on the field. The Arcanine clicks Flare Blitz. I think that is going to take out the sub. And now we're just going to see a Dazzling Gleam or a Draining Kiss. We see the Draining Kiss take a lot of damage, or do a lot of damage on this Reuniclus. And Crocodile is not happy to be in this position at all. We're seeing not a whole lot that threatens this Flood. I feel like this Flood is in a great position to just sweep this game and take all the rest of the KOs. It's at +1, and that's more than enough. I think I would have liked to see some damage from the Orthworm done to this Floette. We see Helping Hand into Crocodile, which is... I don't know if it's going to do a whole lot. There is obviously Trick Room up. And we see the Extreme Speed. We see Dazzling Gleam. Dazzling Gleam is just going to take both KOs here. But this game seems like it was almost perfectly set up for Floette to do all of the work. This is a terrible situation for the Ogres. I wonder how they're going to play this in game 2. Because at this point, I imagine that we're just going to see a Flare Blitz, eat the Akka Berry, and then Floette finishes it off. We see the Protect from Floette this turn. But my thought here is that Trick Room is up and Wonder Room is up, right? So the Floette currently has 148 base physical defense because its physical and special defenses are swapped. Doesn't that mean that it's just not going to take that much damage from Iron Head? I feel like I would really want to see just damage done here, because this game is pretty much finished. I would want to see Floette finish this game off here. We do see the Twisted Dimensions return to normal, and defense and special defense return to normal. But now Floette's just going to finish this game. There's not a whole lot that the Ogres are able to do here. We get the Dazzling Gleam. The Dazzling Gleam would have definitely been enough to finish out the Orthworm last turn. I don't think Floette was particularly threatened at all under the Wonder Room. But we only saw 2 Pokemon and 3 moves from each of them in this first game from the Esper. And the Ogres almost showed their entire hand. We've seen almost the entire moveset. No, we have seen the entire moveset from the Reuniclus. I don't think we saw a Trick Room from it, because Trick Room was clicked by Gardevoir in the early game. But I imagine that the Espers have to be thinking that the Reuniclus doesn't have an offensive option, because all it was doing was clicking Helping Hand. I would really want to see a lead that really threatens that Floette more. But no, we're seeing a game plan that seems really weak to Floette here. I think obviously Orthworm can do things to Floette, but it's not going to be enough damage to get through it, I don't think. Especially with the Arcanine on the field. And like, I don't really understand that they're bringing both Mega Evolutions. I don't totally understand what's going on here, but we're going to see, I suppose. Um, this just seems like it's a recipe for disaster into Floet, I think. I want to be a believer, but I really think that Float is just going to run this game. Like, this is potentially going to just be immediately over. There isn't really a way for speed control to be developed here on the board. Obviously, Float could be slower than Crocodile just as a baseline. And we are going to see the Earthquake. But I expect we're just going to see a Dazzling Gleam this turn, and Crocodile is going to be in a really bad spot. We already know from the first game that Orthworm is slower than Floet. We see Earthquake goes first. So Earth Eater doesn't do anything. And we see the Shuka Berry from Arcanine, which we did not see in the first game. It does reasonable damage, but obviously now it's going to be taking a ton of damage in return. And we see the Dazzling Gleam right away. That's just going to take out the Crocodile. That's fairly expected, and we're going to see the Shed Tail, which I don't think that critical hit mattered. The Dazzling Gleam from Flood is so ridiculously strong. And now the Shed Tail isn't going to go off because it is below half HP. Okay, so we are seeing the Ogres accomplish absolutely nothing on the field this turn. And now we're stuck in a situation where we have a Heracross in the back. We have a Gardevoir who is threatened, and Orthworm who cannot click Shed Tail. I would have wanted to see an Iron Head into the Float that turn. I think answering the Float with Iron Head and Earthquake probably would have just been a better idea than going for the Shed Tail. I don't totally get the Shed Tail plan because nothing in the back really wants to be like taking a hit from both Float and Arcanine on the same turn. And Arcanine is faster than Float, so you would be seeing the Flare Blitz. Or it's faster than Float under Trick Room, I guess. So you would be seeing the Flare Blitz come out after, I guess. But it just seems like it's a not fantastic position. And we're going to see the Flare Blitz take out the Orthworm here this turn, I think. Oh, we do see Snarl come out, which is interesting. Are we going to see the Iron Head into the Float? Float does not go down to the Iron Head. Shockingly. I really would have wanted to see that Iron Head in turn 1. Because if we saw Iron Head on turn 1, I think Float would be gone now, and there would be a very reasonable chance that the Ogres would be able to come back in this game. But now they don't really have that much pressure on field. Hyper Voice is going to be coming out faster than both of the opposing Pokemon, which is probably a good deal. I do imagine that we will see something happen this time. It's possible that the we will not see any switches from the Esper. We're just going to see damage clicked. We're going to see Extreme Speed. Extreme Speed doesn't do a whole lot. It was intimidated earlier in the game. And we see Hyper Voice to take out both Pokemon. Now the question is, what do the Esper have in the back? Because the Ogres have a non-Mega Heracross. We have Araquanid. Araquanid is very threatening, and a Runerigus. Runerigus is also a huge problem. Neither of these Pokemon really wants to deal with that. And we have a non-Mega Rock Blast Heracross. I'm not sure how this position can work out for the Ogres, but they are in a better spot than they were in the first game. Not having float around definitely means that they have the capability to recover. I just don't know if they have the ability to do enough damage to get through this. Especially with Rock Blast on their Heracross, it's just not that consistent of an option. And we see Protect from Araquanid immediately. Protect on the Swords Dance. And we see the Trick Room go off. So now Runerigus and Araquanid are threatening a double up into this Heracross. And Heracross has Rock Blast, which is obviously pretty strong into Araquanid, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Unless it gets like 4 hits. It has to be able to take a Liquidation and whatever Runerigus is also going to throw at it. I'm not certain that Runerigus does have access to something like Poltergeist, but Runerigus is looking very strong here. We see the Protect from the Orthworm. And we see the Poltergeist into the Heracross on its Heracronite. And that's got to be range for Liquidation. Liquidation has to be taking it out here. And I think that's honestly going to seal up the game. Because I really don't see a way for the Ogres to get through this one. I would expect to see something like a Wide Guard from Araquanid, potentially, which means that Moonblast would be the best option, but also you're just slower, so it could just be a Liquidation into the Gardevoir slot here to remove it. Because the Orthworm can't really do a whole lot here. We see the Poltergeist fail into into the Orthworm because it already ate a Taco Berry earlier in the game. And we do see Ironhead go off. It does pitiful damage. And it no longer has Earth Eater. Which means I wonder if this Runerigus must only have ground moves and it must only have ground moves and Poltergeist and Trick Room. So it just didn't want to click. The ground move, it might have Stomping Tantrum as its ground move. If it's Stomping Tantrum, then we would see a double powered. We see Will-O-Wisp. The Will-O-Wisp dodge. And Araquanid just finishes it off. And that means that the East Coast Esper do take it 2-0 over the Ontario Ogre in this first week. And honestly, it looked like a very dominant performance. Mega Float looks so incredibly strong. Definitely helped out by this team not really having a whole lot to do against it. But it's very, very difficult. I will be back next week with more recap. So I will see everyone then.